Hello. Welcome to the 2012 legislative session. I'm State Senator Marilyn Chase from the 32nd Legislative District, and I'm here to talk to you today about GMO, genetically modified organisms, and our food. If you are what you eat, then you ought to know what you're eating. We all look at the labels on our food to count calories, check fat content, and to make sure that we're not ingesting any ingredients that we're allergic to. That sort of information is readily available in just about every type of food in existence, except one. The relatively recent phenomenon of genetically engineered foods, such as corn, soy, sugar beets, and more, has become part of American farming and, in turn, the American diet. Aside from the accumulating indications of health effects on humans, there are more than 50 markets around the world, including key markets for Washington farmers, that restrict imports of genetically engineered foods and demand proper labeling. Without labels providing clarity on what is or isn't genetically engineered, numerous import markets have chosen instead to stop buying American corn and rice, and are now sourcing these crops from other countries that provide labeling assurances. That's bad news for American farmers. It's bad news for consumers and really bad news for our economy. And that is why I'm sponsoring Senate Bill 6298, which would require that genetically engineered products be labeled. It's truly a matter of protecting our farmers and our state treasury. Agriculture is one of the state's largest employers, so we must act to keep our trade markets receptive to Washington-grown crops and foods. The problem with genetic engineering, if you'll pardon the pun, is that one bad apple can spoil the bunch. Foreign importers, such as those in Europe and the Pacific Rim countries, have strict prohibitions in place against the importation of genetically engineered crops. The fact that this is a relatively common practice in the United States, and because there's no labeling to distinguish between traditional crops and those created in the lab, makes an entire sector of crops suspect. Take corn, for example. In 1994 and 1995, U.S. farmers and agribusiness supplied 82% of the corn that was imported by European Union countries. Just 10 years later, by 2005, in large part because of agricultural biotechnology, the loss of trade dollars surpassed $817 million. Some estimate the trade losses at more than $1 billion. Yes, that's a billion with a B. Let's not stop there. It was discovered in 2006 that trace amounts of genetically engineered rice mixed with conventional rice across 5 states in the South. This set back the rice export market substantially, an export that brings the U.S. economy close to $1 billion annually. Europe, Japan, Russia, and other buyers canceled orders when the contamination was announced. Importers are now buying from Thailand, Pakistan, India, and Uruguay. The same patterns can be found in the decline of the U.S. soybean market and other formerly lucrative crops. My biggest concern, however, and the biggest concern of the farmers in Washington, is the potential damage to our wheat exports. In Washington state, wheat is king. Wheat is our state's second most valuable export, second only to Boeing. In fact, wheat ranks higher than Microsoft in economic value in terms of trade. If genetically engineered wheat is approved for U.S. farmers to grow, and there are some companies pushing for approval, without a labeling system in place, the effect not only on our farmers but on our state economy as a whole would be devastating. It is why more than 1,500 wheat farmers have signed petitions in eastern Washington demanding that we protect their export markets by requiring identification of GE crops and foods. A Republican colleague representing many of these wheat farmers is drafting a companion measure to my bill to introduce in the House. This is not a Democrat versus Republican, East Side versus West Side, rural versus urban issue, but rather represents an unusual confluence of agreement across the customary divide. It is a matter of protecting our common economic interests. Take Alaska as an example. Under Republican Governor Frank Murkowski, the state adopted a law which states that all genetically engineered fish and shellfish be labeled as such. While the FDA has yet to approve genetically engineered fish, Alaska is not taking any chances, and neither should we. It is in our state's best economic interest to protect our wheat farmers and this critical export market in every possible way. We must move forward on Senate Bill 6298 so that people and trade partners know what they're eating and importing. That is all for this week. Please contact my office with any questions, comments, and concerns. My information is at the bottom of your screen. Thanks for watching.